Life after death. The question of whether or not there is life after death does not fall under the field of science, because science is only concerned with the classification and analysis of recorded data. Moreover, man has been busy with scientific inquiries and research, in the modern sense of the term, only for the last few centuries, while he has been familiar with the idea of life after death since time immemorial. All the prophets of God called their people to worship God and to believe in life after death. They laid so much emphasis on the belief in life after death that even a slight doubt in it meant denying God and made all other beliefs meaningless. The very fact that all the prophets of God have dealt with this metaphysical question so confidently and uniformly, the gap between their ages being thousands of years, goes to prove that the source of their knowledge of life after death, as proclaimed by them all, was the same, divine revelation. We also know that these prophets of God were greatly opposed by their people, mainly on the issue of life after death, as their people thought it impossible. But in spite of that opposition, the prophets won many sincere followers. The question arises, what made those followers forsake the established beliefs, traditions and customs of their forefathers, regardless of the risk of being totally alienated from their own community? The simple answer is that they made use of their faculties of mind and heart and realized the truth. Did they realize the truth through experiencing it? Not so, as the perceptual experience of life after death is impossible. Actually, God has given man, besides perceptual consciousness, rational, aesthetic and moral consciousness too. It is this consciousness that guides man regarding realities that cannot be verified through sensory data. That is why all the prophets of God, while calling people to believe in God and the life hereafter, appealed to the aesthetic, moral and rational sides of man. For example, when the idolaters of Makkah denied even the possibility of life after death, the Qur'an exposed the weakness of their stand by advancing very logical and rational arguments in support of it. And he has coined for us a similitude, and has forgotten the fact of his creation, saying, "Who will revive these bones when they have rotted away?" Say, he will revive them who produced them at the first, for he is the knower of every creation, who has appointed for you fire from the green tree, and behold, you kindle from it. Is it not he who created the heavens and the earth, able to create the like of them? Yes, and he is indeed the supreme creator, the all-knowing. 36:78-81. At another occasion, the Qur'an very clearly says that the disbelievers have no sound basis for their denial of life after death. It is based on pure conjecture. They say, there is nothing but our present life, we die, and we live, and nothing but time destroys us. Of that they have no knowledge, they merely conjecture. And when our revelations are recited to them, their only argument is that they say, bring us our Father, if you speak truly. 45:24-25. Surely God will raise all the dead. But God has his own plan of things. A day will come when the whole universe will be destroyed, and then again the dead will be resurrected to stand before God. That day will be the beginning of the life that will never end, and that day, every person will be rewarded by God according to his good and evil deeds. The explanation that the Qur'an gives about the necessity of life after death is what the moral consciousness of man demands. Actually, if there is no life after death, the very belief in God becomes irrelevant, or even if one believes in God, that would be an unjust and indifferent God, having once created man only to be unconcerned with his fate. Surely, God is just. He will punish the tyrants whose crimes are beyond count, having killed hundreds of innocent persons, created great corruption in the society, enslaved numerous persons to serve their whims, and so forth. Man, having a very short span of life in this world, and this physical world, also, not being eternal, punishments or rewards equal to the evil or noble deeds of persons are not possible here. The Qur'an very emphatically states that the day of judgment must come and God will decide about the fate of each soul according to his or her record of deeds. Those who disbelieve say, "The hour will never come unto us." Say, "Nay, by my Lord, but it is coming unto you surely. He is the knower of the unseen. Not an atom's weight, or less than that or greater, escapes him in the heavens or in the earth, but it is in a clear record. That he may reward those who believe and do good works. For them is pardon and a rich provision. But those who strive against our revelations, challenging us, theirs will be a painful doom of wrath. 34:3-5. The day of resurrection will be the day when God's attributes of justice and mercy will be in full manifestation. God will shower his mercy on those who suffered for his sake in the worldly life, believing that an eternal bliss was awaiting them. But those who abuse the bounties of God, caring nothing for the life to come, will be in the most miserable state. Drawing a comparison between them, the Qur'an says, "Is he, then, to whom we have promised a goodly promise, the fulfillment of which he will meet, like the one whom we have provided with the good things of this life, and then on the day of resurrection he will be of those who will be brought arraigned before God." 28:61. The Qur'an also states that this worldly life is a preparation for the eternal life after death. But those who deny it become slaves of their passions and desires, and make fun of virtuous and God-conscious persons. Such people realize their folly only at the time of their death and wish in vain to be given a further chance in the world. Their miserable state at the time of death, and the horror of the day of judgment, and the eternal bliss guaranteed to the sincere believers are very beautifully mentioned in the following verses of the Qur'an. Until, when death comes unto one of them, he says, "My Lord, send me back, that I may do right in that which I have left behind." But nay, it is but a word that he speaks, and behind them is a barrier until the day when they are raised. And when the trumpet is blown, there will be no kinship among them that day, nor will they ask of another. Then those whose scales are heavy, they are successful. And those whose scales are light are those who lose their souls, in hell abiding, the fire burns their faces and they are glum therein. 23:99-104. The belief in life after death not only guarantees success in the hereafter, but also makes this world full of peace and happiness by making individuals most responsible and dutiful in their activities. Think of the people of Arabia. Gambling, wine, tribal feuds, plundering and murdering were their main traits when they had no belief in a life hereafter. But as soon as they accepted the belief in one God and life after death, they became the most disciplined nation of the world. They gave up their vices, helped each other in hours of need, and settled all their disputes on the basis of justice and equality. Similarly, the denial of life after death has its consequences not only in the hereafter, but also in this world. When a nation as a whole denies it, all kinds of evils and corruptions become rampant in that society and ultimately it is destroyed. The Qur'an mentions the terrible end of Ad, the mud, and the Pharaoh in some detail. The tribes of the mud and Ad disbelieved in the judgment to come. As for the mud, they were destroyed by the lightning, and as for Ad, they were destroyed by a fierce roaring wind, which he imposed on them for 7 long nights and 8 long days, so that you might see the people laid prostrate in it as if they were the stumps of fallen down palm trees. Now do you see remnant of them? Pharaoh likewise and those before him and the subverted cities. They committed errors and those before him, and they rebelled against the messenger of their Lord, and he seized them with a surpassing grip. Lo, when the waters rose, we bore you in the running ship that we might make it a reminder for you and for heating ears to hold. So when the trumpet is blown with a single blast and the earth and the mountains are lifted up and crushed with a single blow, then on that day, the terror shall come to pass, and the heaven shall be split, for upon that day it shall be very frail. Then as for him who is given his book in his right hand, he shall say, Here, take and read my book. Certainly I thought that I should encounter my reckoning. So he shall be in a pleasing life in a lofty garden, its clusters nigh to gather. Eat and drink with wholesome appetite for what you did long ago, in the days gone by. But as for him who is given his book in his left hand, he shall say, Would that I had not been given my book and known my reckoning. Would it had been the end. My wealth has not availed me, my authority is gone from me. 69:4-29. Thus, there are very convincing reasons to believe in life after death. First, all the prophets of God have called their people to believe in it. Secondly, whenever a human society is built on the basis of this belief, it has been the most ideal and peaceful society, free of social and moral evils. Thirdly, history bears witness that whenever this belief is rejected collectively by a group of people in spite of the repeated warning of the prophet, the group as a whole has been punished by God, even in this world. Fourthly, moral, aesthetic and rational facilities of man endorse the possibility of life after death. Fifthly, God's attributes of justice and mercy have no meaning if there is no life after death. Now one might ask, how many prophets has God sent to humanity? We do not know for sure. Some Muslim scholars have suggested 240,000 prophets. We are only sure of what is clearly mentioned in the Qur'an, that God has sent a messenger to every nation. That is because it is one of God's principles that He will never call a people to account unless He has made clear to them what to do and what not to do. The Qur'an mentions the names of 25 prophets and indicates that there have been others who were not mentioned to Prophet Muhammad. These 25 include Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all. These 5 are the greatest among God's messengers. They are called the resolute prophets. An outstanding aspect of the Islamic belief in prophethood is that Muslims believe in and respect all the messengers of God with no exceptions. All the prophets came from the same one God, for the same purpose, to lead mankind to God. Hence, belief in them all is essential and logical. Accepting some and rejecting others has to be based on misconceptions of the prophet's role or on a racial bias. The Muslims are the only people in the world who consider the belief in all the prophets an article of faith. Thus the Jews reject Jesus and Muhammad, peace be upon them, and the Christians reject Muhammad. The Muslims accept them all as messengers of God who brought guidance to mankind. However, the revelations which those prophets before Muhammad brought from God has been tampered with in one way or another. The belief in all the prophets of God is enjoined upon the Muslims in the Qur'an. Say, O Muslims, we believe in Allah and that which is revealed to us and that which was revealed to Abraham and Ishmael, and Isaac and Jacob, and their children, and that which Moses and Jesus received and that the prophets received from their Lord. We make no distinction between any of them and unto Him we have surrendered. 2:136. The Quran continues in the following verses to instruct the Muslims that this is the true and impartial belief. If other nations believe in the same, they are following in the right track. If they do not, they must be following their own whims and biases and God will take care of them. Thus we read, and if they believe in what you believe, then they are rightly guided. But if they turn away, then they are in disunity, and Allah will suffice you against them. He is the hearer, the knower. This is God's religion, and who is better than God in religion? 2:137-138. There are, at least, 2 important points related to prophethood that need to be clarified. These points concern the roles of Jesus and Muhammad, peace be upon them, as prophets, who are usually misunderstood. The Quranic account of Jesus emphatically rejects the concept of his divinity and divine sonship, and presents him as one of the great prophets of God. The Qur'an makes it clear that the birth of Jesus without a father does not make him the Son of God and mentions, in this respect, Adam, who was created by God without a father or mother. Truly, the likeness of Jesus, in God's sight, is as Adam's likeness. He created him of dust, then said he unto him, Be, and he was. 3:59. Like other prophets, Jesus also performed miracles. For example, he raised the dead and cured the blind and lepers, but while showing these miracles, he always made it clear that it was all from God. Actually, the misconceptions about the personality and mission of Jesus found a way among his followers because the divine message he preached was not recorded during his presence in the world. Rather, it was recorded after a lapse of about 100 years. According to the Qur'an, he was sent to the children of Israel. He confirmed the validity of the Torah, which was revealed to Moses, and he also brought the glad tidings of a final messenger after him. And when Jesus son of Mary said, Children of Israel, I am indeed the messenger to you, confirming the Torah that is before me, and giving good tidings of a messenger who shall come after me, whose name shall be the praised one. 61:6. The praised one is the translation of Ahmad, which is Prophet Muhammad's name. However, the majority of the Jews rejected his ministry. They plotted against his life and in their opinion, crucified him. But the Quran refutes this opinion and says that they neither killed him nor crucified him, rather, he was raised up to God. There is a verse in the Quran which implies that Jesus will come back and all the Christians and Jews will believe in him before he dies. This is also supported by authentic sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. The last prophet of God, Muhammad, was born in Arabia in the 6th century CE. Up to the age of 40, people of Makkah knew him only as a man of excellent character and cultured manners and called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy. He also did not know that he was soon to be made a prophet and receiver of revelation from God. He called the idolaters of Makkah to worship the one and only God and accept him, Muhammad, Pbuh, as his prophet. The revelation that he received was preserved in his lifetime in the memory of his companions and was also recorded on pieces of palm leaf, leather, etc. Thus the Quran that is found today is the same that was revealed to him. Not a syllable of it has been altered, as God himself has guaranteed its preservation. This Quran claims to be the book of guidance for all of humanity for all times, and mentions Muhammad as the last prophet of God.